Welcome to the She Lives with MS podcast. This is Michaela Michelle, your host, and I'm so happy you're here with me to journey through this whole world and reality of living with MS. This is episode 1, which I entitled The Reality, because I'll tell you, living with MS is really challenging and really interesting. You know, today we're going to really talk about what it's like living with secondary progressive multiple sclerosis, because most people don't understand what this condition is like. And so this episode is for people who live with MS, but also for people who don't know anything about MS and really would like to know more about it. I have secondary progressive multiple sclerosis, and SPMS is a stage of MS where symptoms steadily worsen over time without periods of full remission. So what does that mean? When you have remitting MS, you are well for a while and then you get sick. And then you are well for a while, and then you get sick again. Well, with secondary progressive, I no longer have periods of time where I am totally well. The disease is progressing, and I'm at a later stage of the progression of the condition. And this is a reality that shapes every part of our lives. And everybody's progression is different. So today I'm going to share a little bit about what my reality is in MS, and also if you know somebody with MS, this will give you a snapshot of what kind of life they live. Now, this is the first time that I'm recording this episode or any episodes. So if I don't drop jokes yet, it's because I'm still a little bit intimidated by living with this condition. So let's go into what living with MS looks like. What is the reality of living with MS? The first thing that I want to highlight is fatigue. Now, you might think of fatigue as being tired or maybe feeling exhausted because you've had a long day. That's not the kind of fatigue that people with MS get. This isn't that I stayed up too late tired, or that I haven't been getting enough sleep tired. What MS fatigue is called, in technical terms, it's called lassitude. And this is a full body exhaustion, literally from the inside of the core of you to the outside, even to the hairs on your head are exhausted and completely drained. And that makes even simple tasks like getting dressed or brushing your teeth or going to the bathroom or getting out of bed literally feel impossible. And this is not just a symptom of MS. It's literally a reality of MS. So if you have MS, I just want to take a moment and acknowledge you and tell you that you're not alone. And if you don't know much about MS but want to know more about it, please understand that exhaustion and fatigue is not a symptom of MS. It is a reality of MS. The second reality that I want to share with you is mobility changes. I'll tell you, when I first got diagnosed, I had no idea about drop foot. I had no idea that I would be tripping over my feet. I had no idea that I would be really swimmy, which means that I look around and I feel like I'm inside a pool of water. That swimmy feeling is really disconcerting and it is really challenging. Walking becomes really difficult. Muscle weakness, spasticity, I can't even say the word spasticity. And balance issues become a real reality, and that's a daily battle that we all face. For many of us, this means that we have to walk with assistance. either using a cane, a walker, or even for some of us, living full-time in a wheelchair. And all of these walking and mobility tools are really good, but let me tell you something. The reality of this is that this change in the ability to be mobile and be independent, it really drains you emotionally. It is one of the most difficult parts of living with MS. And, mobility challenges are one thing, but then the mobility challenges come with then emotional challenges and emotional, oh my goodness, it's emotional heartache. That's the only way that I can describe it. So number 3, when someone lives with MS, the reality is that MS is progressive and unpredictable. And that really brings high level of frustration. It puts you in a moment or a season or a permanent emotional position of grief. People don't realize that when you go through MS, that you are grieving the loss of your former self. We grieve the loss over the abilities that we have to do things. And then that creates anxiety about the future. So the emotional and psychological toll living with MS is a reality that everybody needs to understand. Depression is literally everybody's reality. It's very common. I don't know anybody with MS that does not battle with depression. And it's not just, we don't get depressed just from the life changes, but also from MS itself. MS itself changes our brain chemistry. And when your brain chemistry is not balanced or is not healthy, it creates kind of feeling like you're underwater and creates an emotional toll. So that's the third reality of MS. Number 4, cognitive changes. Cognitive changes are a reality living with MS. Brain fog is more than just forgetting things. We all forget things. Everybody, whether you have an autoimmune disease that affects the brain or not, doesn't really, this is not what I'm talking about. Brain fog for us includes memory lapses. It includes struggling to process information. It also includes losing track of your thought mid-conversation. Now, there are some of us who don't have MS, and maybe that happens. That's a normal thing, right? But with MS, literally, it is our reality every single day. And that brain fog and those cognitive changes and challenges, they impact everything. They impact your work life. They impact family and the way you deal with your family and the way maybe family even knows how to deal with you. It impacts daily life in ways that can feel so isolating. When your brain is not firing, but on the outside you look normal, it is one of the most challenging and confusing things that we go through with MS. Number 5, a reality of living with MS is loss of independence. I am a New York City girl, born and raised. I now live in Florida, but I had that attitude where I can do everything on my own and I'm independent and I don't need anybody. And you know what? The reality of living with MS is that we lose our independence. Daily activities that we once managed on our own, like running errands and doing chores and even taking care of our personal care, right? Taking a shower, wiping ourselves down, shaving our legs, doing like personal self-care, that becomes issues and things that we need help with sometimes, depending on what level of progression we have. in this condition. And let me tell you something, that loss of independence for me has been one of the most challenging things that I have had to deal with living with this. I have had so much challenge with the loss of independence, and that is a reality for us who live with MS. That shift from being independent and doing your own thing to needing help with basic things is very humbling, and it often creates heartache and heartbreak, and that's so hard for us. So if you're listening and you are a family member or friend of somebody living with MS, or someone who's just recently been diagnosed or have been living with MS for a long time, I'm so sorry that this has been so difficult for you. But hopefully, as we spend time together, we can go through this together. The next reality of living with MS is unpredictable symptoms. You never know what kind of day you're going to wake up in. SPMS and our RMS are all progressive forms of MS. And it's not a straight line, right? It's not a linear progression. For some of us, we wake up in the morning and we feel fine. And then that afternoon, we can't walk. Or you go to bed feeling okay, and you wake up like you cannot get out of bed. I have had times where in the morning, I feel okay. I'm making breakfast. I'm doing what I need to do. And the next thing I know, that afternoon, I'm on the couch. Literally, I am laid out on the sofa, not being able to move because I went from being okay to not being okay. And what does that mean? What is the reality of having unpredictable symptoms? That means that you can't plan ahead for anything. You literally cannot plan ahead. Before you were diagnosed with MS, you could plan a trip, a weekend getaway with someone or people. Or you can plan a party and say, okay, I'm going to put this party together. Or you can just plan for the day. I want to go and run errands. I need to go to the bank. I need to go to the post office. So you get up in the morning with a plan. And by midday, you cannot do anything that you planned. And that's so, so hard. The next reality of living with MS is bladder and bowel issues. First of all, that is so emotionally draining. Being a grown adult and having to wear adult diapers, and now they call them a very romantic name. They call it Depends. We wear Depends. Well, you know what? Wearing the depends on what's going on for me that day. And the bladder and the bowel issues doesn't get talked about enough, right? No one talks about that because no one wants to talk about that. But there have been times where I didn't know about this symptom, and then I was in a crowded train and I did number 1 and did number 2 on myself. What do you do when you're on a train and you pee on yourself and you don't expect it, and you don't know what to do, and when you try to hold the pee, your brain doesn't talk to your bladder at all. Now, bladder and bowel issues is a reality for MS, but you need to understand that it's not only peeing on yourself, that it can also include incontinence, which is peeing on yourself, but it can also include doing number 2 on yourself, having a diarrhea on yourself. Why? Because your brain stops talking to your bladder and your bowels. The connection between the two become disconnected. And so then what do you do? What do you do when your brain doesn't talk to your bowels, right? On the other end of the spectrum, though, you can have horrible and oh my goodness, chronic constipation. Why? Because your brain is not sending signals to your bowels. And so your number 2 sits there. and doesn't move. You have no motility inside of your lower intestines. And this is let me tell you something. This is so emotionally draining, and it's horrible because you can't trust to go out anywhere without using bladder control items. So if you know of anybody who's going through this, or if you yourself are going through this, I'm so sorry that you have had issues. I've had issues as well. I have one story to share with you. I was on a New York City subway, and I had just been recently diagnosed, and I didn't know anything about this bowel and incontinence symptoms. I didn't know anything about that. And I was in a crowded New York City subway. The next thing I knew, I got chills from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet. All of the hairs on my body were standing on end. And the next thing I knew, my bladder and my bowels completely released themselves all over me. And it was number 2, and it was diarrhea. Now, I literally froze. I froze. I said, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my God, oh my. And the next thing I knew, there was a puddle of urine around my feet. And there was a horrible odor of diarrhea around me. And people were looking at me. And I froze. I froze. I just froze. I didn't move. 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 I just moved. I said, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my. And I just stood there, and and people started covering their noses and pulling away from me and trying to find space away from me in this crowded subway. And I was pretty far away from home at that point. So I waited. I was like, please, 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 I just need to get to the next stop. I just need to get to the next stop. So I got to the next stop, and I walked up the stairs, because I was in a subway, right? I had to walk up the stairs to find the exit. And the smell, the odor was so horrible. This was one of the most terrifying and the most humiliating things that have happened to me while I've been on this journey. So let's keep going. What else are the realities of living with MS? The next thing people don't talk about this, the strained relationships. MS doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone around you. Your partners, your family, your spouse, your boyfriends, your girlfriends, even your friends may struggle to understand what they can't see, right? Because you look okay on the outside, but you are literally destroyed on the inside. The roles and responsibilities around the house have to change. And as a couple, as a family, you need to redefine boundaries. You need to let people know that this is happening, and that you want to talk about it, and that you want to be open about it, because your boundaries need to be redefined at that moment. The next reality that we live with when living with MS is navigating all of the doctor's appointments and all of the requirements of living in this world with health insurance, with the pharmacy, making sure that you have pharmacy coverage, making sure that you have your medications. With SPMS, treatments often means symptom management and rehab. Sometimes it's occupational therapy, sometimes it's physical therapy, sometimes it's chiropractic. I have had all of them, and right now, as I'm progressing, I am doing full-time chiropractic. I do chiropractic. I do physical therapy at my chiropractic. I do spinal decompression therapy. I have had it was 9 or 10, it was 10 weeks or so of TMS treatments on my brain. So there are therapies that you need to find out about and need to understand that can really help you. What I'm going to do is I am going to post a list of the different therapies that I've done, and hopefully those will help you. I'll put them in the show notes and on my blog so that you can look into those with your health insurance. But you need to manage your symptoms, and you need to become your own healthcare advocate, right? So you need to be able to have a team of neurologists around you, a team of therapists and counselors around you. I cannot begin to stress enough that you need to start therapy. You need to start psychotherapy. It's very important. I don't know what I would have done without having a good therapist all the way through all these years. You need to be in therapy. Navigating your healthcare is super important. And last, one of the realities about living with multiple sclerosis is managing your self-image. Your self-image is one of the things that takes the biggest hit. And it's important that you understand what that means and that things are going to change. Now, when your body changes, your sense of self is the one that takes the hit, right? Using mobility aids like a cane or a walker or a wheelchair, the chronic fatigue, the changes in your appearance can challenge your self-confidence and can challenge your identity as a person. And you need to be your own advocate. You need to find new ways to embrace the new you. And, we, in this world, we use the word beauty like you have to be an influencer and you have to be gorgeous and you have to be this. But you know what? That's not a reality. You have to find ways to embrace a new you. Embracing the way you look now. Embracing the way you walk now. Sometimes looking fatigued, even though you've had 9 or 10 hours of sleep at night. Or living with insomnia and looking like death when you wake up the next morning. But you need to find new ways to embrace your beauty and your look. And you need to find ways to bolster your dignity and your self-worth as a person. Your dignity and your worth as a person and your self-image is very important and is integral to living with MS. Now, why does all this matter? Living with MS is not easy. It's not easy for you, and it's not easy for your friends and for your family. It's exhausting, it's unpredictable, and often it's a lonely disease. You feel isolated and you feel alone. But now this is an opportunity in that moment, in this reality. This is the opportunity where you can build a relationship with God, because people think that building a relationship with God means that you have to join a religion. I don't subscribe to any religions. I believe in God, the one and only true creator God, the God that created the heavens and the earth. And that has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with understanding that there is the ultimate majesty, supreme God that loves us and that wants to provide our needs. He wants to help us and wants to be with us. And all we need to do is stay open to building a relationship with him. This is an opportunity at this moment for you to say, you know what, God, I don't know anything about you. I have never prayed or I have never thought about anything as far as believing in God. But I can't do this walk alone. I can't do this alone. Because every time we stumble, God is there. Every time we defecate on ourselves, God is there. Every time we wake up feeling like death, he's there. But he's just waiting for us to ask him for help. So I'm going to encourage you right now to ask for help. Let's do a quick prayer as we close. God, thank you for being here with us. Thank you for letting us know that you are with us. And thank you for giving us hope because living with MS, we need hope. Thank you for being the God of love, and thank you for walking with us as we go through this horrible condition. Thank you, God, for everything that you do for us, and thank you for being with us. Amen. Thank you for being here with me on my first episode, and I look forward to seeing you in episode number 2. God bless you. Bye.